Oh, I'm Joseph Benedict, and my project is on Kurudi, the mountain gorilla. Uh, really enjoyed learning about these creatures. I watched a ton of YouTube documentaries, and I did the research and found the data and stuff online, and so Kurudi, my animal, is a mountain gorilla in Rwanda's Volcanoes National Park. Diving into this has been a deeply touching experience. Um, when you look at the mountain gorillas, it's impossible to ignore how human-like they are, from their social bonds to the way they care for their young, to the way they play, the way they use body language and they vocalize. It's they're just amazing, and they share nearly 98% of our DNA, and seeing that connection makes the threats they face feel kind of personal. It creates a difficult ethical tension, and the local people that live around the mountain gorillas area, they're often desperate, and desperate people do desperate things to survive. But these animals are so like us. Losing them feels like a profound moral loss, like it's losing a person. So Kurudi is part of the famous Titus group. A critical component of her conservation is that she is visually tracked rather than tagged. Researchers deliberately avoid GPS chips because the process of tranquilizing a gorilla is high risk. By tracking her on foot daily, the park prioritizes her social life as well as physical health. This ensures her family dynamics remain intact and her natural behaviors aren't disrupted by invasive hardware. So, we have protect the mountain gorillas for their intrinsic value, the biocentric view, and tourism and revenue that they generate are anthropocentric view. Uh, this effort started globally with Diane Fossey and her bond with a gorilla named Digit, who was tragically killed by poachers in 1977. And this led to the creation of the Digit Fund, which eventually became the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund, which is the world's longest running gorilla conservation group. Um, oh, the mountain gorilla is an ecosystem engineer. By eating 40 pounds of plants a day, they thin out the forest so that sunlight can reach the floor and, lead to the biodiversity, the vegetation. The silverbacks in her group, Kurundi's group, they can weigh up to 450 pounds and stand like 6 feet tall. While groups usually have one dominant male, some have been recorded with as many as 8 silverbacks, showing how complex their social structures are. it's um, it's pretty cool to see, like, study a group or a study on a group and see how the group dynamics and the social interactions are really close to ours as humans. um, so yeah, they're endangered, and so in 1980s, their population was 254. And today we have over 1,063, and the number's climbing, which is good to see. You know, 245 is a ridiculously low number. It's amazing that they're recovering, and it's really cool to see the conservation efforts in Rwanda and the surrounding countries. Their diet is very specific. They love bamboo shoots, which are only available twice a year. Interestingly, their teeth and tongues are stained black by the tannins in their diet, the same bitter compounds found in tea and coffee. So, one of their the biggest threat is illegal charcoal production, and it causes habitat fragmentation among other problems for the gorillas. The biggest is, of course, the charcoal production, because local communities often lack modern power grids. People enter the park to harvest wood for fuel, and this strips the forest and creates fragmentation in their habitat, forcing their families to move deeper into the mountains to find safety. This was my personal energy audit. So I have a picture of my studio gear, which draws quite a bit of power. So a lot of the time I would leave it running during the day, just to avoid the booting up of, booting up the computer, opening up my recording program, and all that, so I audited my own energy use and realized I was part of the problem. By leaving my PC and recording gear on all the time just to avoid that boot up, I was wasting over 1,200 kilowatts a year. That's 500 kilograms of CO2 for no reason. I've now implemented a different policy. I keep my stuff off now. It's not really that big of a deal to wait for the boot up. So actually, I have my stuff off at the moment. Hey, I'm sorry about the mashed potatoes. Check. There we go. So yeah, so I have my gear off all the time unless I'm going to use it now, and I hope that can help reduce my carbon footprint. That directly impacts Kurundi's world as well as the entire world. Back to Kurundi and the gorillas. So another problem they face with their habitat loss is, agriculture. So they live on an island of forest surrounded by potato farms. The volcanic soil is fertile, but once cleared for Irish potatoes, it erodes quickly. The nutrient runoff destroys water quality and makes the land less productive, creating a cycle where people feel pressured to encroach even further into the park for fresh soil. So their proposed park expansion, to help solve the problem with the farms. Rwanda is expanding the park by 23%. This includes building green villages with better infrastructure for relocated farmers. This creates a permanent buffer zone, keeping Kurudi and her family actually, sorry, safe from human wildlife conflict while improving the lives of the local population. Another threat that they face, or risk, is the biological pollution in the form of diseases carried by humans. So, for the mountain gorilla, the most dangerous pollutant is human breath. Because we share 98% DNA, a common cold or flu can be fatal for them. This is why tourists must wear masks and maintain a 10-meter distance to prevent biological pollution from wiping out their families, the gorilla families. So, the elevator to extinction. So, with climate change, the vegetation zones are moving up in elevation, which is causes the gorillas to follow it upwards, and which reduces the size of their usable living space. IPCC data predicts a 2-degree rise in this region by 2050. And this creates the escalator to extinction. As temperature rises, the bamboo forests move higher up the mountain, and eventually they'll run out of mountain. Climate change is shrinking their habitat from the bottom up, and that's terrible. Yes. So the buffer zone expansion policy is something that I think is a great idea, and who knows, once they get that buffer zone in, they maybe can expand it some more somehow. Because these animals are definitely worth saving. I mean, all animals are. I'm don't I should have said it differently. But yeah, no, they're special in my eyes, anyways. And so their largest issue being habitat fragmentation. I definitely support the park expansion policy because it addresses the root cause of land competition. My role starts with being a conscious consumer. My studio gear, and I've recently also switched to using glass containers and water filters rather than using bottled water. And so I hope fixing my studio's energy waste and supporting sustainable practices, I can be part of the systems thinking approach that determines Kurundi's future. So, there's my sources. I use the follow tracking data and the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund International, the IUCN Red List, and the IPCC 6 Assessment Report, as well as at least 4 documentaries from YouTube. I forgot to include the links to the videos. But yeah, there you have it. Kurudi, mountain gorilla.